Good morning, guys and girls and people of the world. We are back from the summer break, by the way, with another LJL English. We are here with Middlecott and with Melvin. Oh, look at that beautiful graphic. Ah,
Oh,
yes.
it's
That's
brilliant.
wonderful.
It's not
It's good to
cursed at
see
all.
Jet and Ebby sort of chilling out, relaxing in the off time. I like the facial hair that Ebby has been sporting. I wonder if we're going to be seeing that on social media anytime soon.
Oh, I very
Oh,
much hope
actually,
so.
that would be an excellent tweet. And you know what? I just want to point out that I really appreciate how realistic, our graphics people made it look. It's not disturbing at all. It's perfectly fitting for today. We have some banger matches, but before that, I would like to know how you guys are doing today. Let's start with Middlecott. How are you?
I'm pretty good. Mostly been chilling. I've been missing the LJL a lot this week because it's a broadcast that's really close to my heart and it's something that I can really have fun with. So if I wanted to, for example, record my going live tweet live on air and then send it out on Twitter, I'm absolutely fine to do that. So we've got some banger games ahead of us today. Really looking forward to it.
That's great. You nailed it, by the way. Like, that was so professional,
I
actually.
am
Good
I'm so
job.
bad at doing those in one take usually.
Is that like
That
it
was full on me just going
full
Wow.
for it.
circle? So unprofessional it becomes professional again. There you go.
Exactly.
Oh, there we are.
Able to
Oh,
Tweet
do,
that's
but
sent.
brilliant.
honestly, yes, that was impressive. How about you, Melvin? How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. Yeah, it is great to be back. I always love getting to come on this stream, and it is
Welcome
just a
back.
home away from home. I'm very excited because we also get a little bit of a banger to kick off the day.
Super true. Yes, we are kicking off with Sengoku Gaming versus DFM, and well, I guess we can't begin to explain why this is a banger. Both teams are at the top of the standings, and DFM has only dropped one game, and it has been to Sengoku. So, what are you guys expecting for today's match?
I am expecting possibly the highest level League of Legends that we're going to see in the LGL until these two teams play off again.
Yeah, absolutely go attest to that one. I think the only bad result we get for this game is if it's just a complete one-sided stomp, and even that
Yeah.
isn't a bad
Right.
result if we get to see it because of outsmarting. Something like DFM coming in with a week's worth of time to prep, complete clean slate. I've got a lot of footage now on Sengoku. Other way around, same way. With this new potential patch coming in, there's a lot of different picks that we could start to see pop up, and I'm very excited to see how the teams have used their time off.
Yes, they have had, if I am not mistaken, about a week off.
Yeah.
Actually, a little bit more than a week, right? About like 8 to 9 days. So, yes, how do we think that these teams have been doing in the time off? Because I know that when people take time off in the LEC, some teams like actually yesterday I got to talk to G2's coach, and he mentioned that they actually took time off in their break because of MSI. They were so
Mm,
overwhelmed with like everything that they had to do for practice and for game days and whatnot, that they felt like the break was, to take some time off and
Yeah.
enjoy it. But how do we think that the LJL teams did? Maybe the ones that were top on the
hmm.
standings got to take some time off. Maybe
Yeah.
P3 had to hone in some some issues. Go ahead, Milka. You
Yeah,
can get
I
started.
think that's probably the case. The likes of your Sengokus and the DFMs, and maybe even the Hawks, I think, could take a little bit of an easier time during this break, obviously, because they have been performing so well. And I think DFM are probably lumped in with G2 in a little bit of that sort of intense schedule. I think burnout is definitely a real possibility when you consider,
Right.
obviously, MSI and then how fast paced the schedule of the LJL is. So I imagine for our top teams, maybe a little bit of rest, but there are a load of teams a little bit lower down in the standings that have had a few issues that they've needed to work on. So I imagine that it's been all that time has been spent in the gaming house, getting as many scrims as possible, trying to iron out the issues these teams have.
Yeah, completely agree with that. I think that for a lot of these teams, one of the biggest benefits is throughout the split, right? Normally, if you think, regions like the LEC, you have 5 days between your game days. For
Right.
LGL, you get three max, three
Mm-hmm.
days maximum. That is not enough time to completely rework your style, to think, oh, this draft hasn't been working out for us. How can we try and add some new champions to the pool? How can we update to be on this patch? If you get a bad meta read from some scrims, that can be devastating for weeks on end. This is what I'm expecting to be the turning point for a lot of the teams like Rascal Jester that have been on a bit of a downward trajectory to really start to see what we expected from them. And then at the top of the table, I'm of two minds. You could use it for your holiday, or you can use it to keep the grind going and try and get ahead of schedule. I think when you're DFM with that chip on your shoulder from Sengoku, I could very much believe both ways if they took the week to chill
Yes.
because they know they'll be in the Juggernaut match, or they said, actually, won't
Which is
have that.
actually, I feel like it's it's so unfair. They're like, oh yeah, everyone gets to go on break, and then we get to go on break knowing that we are going to play Sengoku, which is
Yeah.
Tenno right now. So is it really a break, or is it just some time to brew up some anxiety?
Yeah,
I don't know.
yeah, I think that's probably fair. Maybe like you actually need all that time to actually prepare to play against Sengoku. But I just want to shout
Exactly.
out like the people doing the schedule for the LGL. Our first game of the split was Sengoku DFM, and now suspiciously coming back from break, our first game is going to be Sengoku DFM.
I'm not angry about that. I'll be honest. It's a banger and I'm
Good
excited
for
to
us.
watch it. Yes, exactly. For us, it's great. All right, before we move on into more talking, we should go over the matches that we have today. So, like we mentioned, we kick off with a banger, Sengoku versus DFM, and then we have Crest Gaming versus Burning Core, V3 versus Axis Gaming, followed by Rascal Jester and SoftBank Hawks. Guys, how are we feeling for the other matches of the day? We
I
can begin with Melvin. Sorry.
yeah.
I think we got a great day ahead of us, honestly. Like, these are as close to the standings as you can get. I'm pretty sure, actually, off the top of my head,
Right.
every team is basically sellotape next to their opponent on the standings table. So that's just really great for getting to see how all of these teams have used that week off and tangibly get to show it on their first game back. I think out of all the other ones, other than our first game of the day, which is going to be amazing, I think that last one really bookends it
Yeah.
nicely with the Rascal Jesters versus Hawks.
Yeah, and I think for me, those two matches in the middle are gonna be a little bit fun. Obviously, CJ and Burning Core, a couple of rosters that we had high expectations for coming in to the start of the year and then to the start of this split, and we haven't really reached them. So I wonder if either of those teams is going to be able to turn it around. And then V3 and Axis, this has been a battle at the bottom of the table for this past year. But Axis, their chances of getting into the playoffs are looking a little bit better, and V3 are still chasing that first win. And this matchup today, probably one of the better chances for them to grab it.
All right. Sounds good, guys. We are returning from summer with possibly a new patch. I'm not sure if we were able to confirm that they are actually playing on point 13 today, but if they are, right. We had looked it up and I'm pretty sure that it was still a little bit murky. We were not
Yeah.
entirely sure, but if we are playing in a new patch, what is changing exactly? We can begin with Middlecott. You can tell me if you want to talk about top lane, that's perfectly fine, or go ahead and just give us your rundown.
We'll kind of go everywhere. So the main thing
Yes.
for me coming through on 12-13 is actually a champion that the LJL has loved for years, and that is the Poppy. It turns out that all of a sudden a Korean jungler in a major region plays the pick, goes absolutely insane on it. Everyone goes, whoa, Poppy's really incredible.
Wow.
But the likes of Steel and
Yes.
Hatchemetra have been piloting this one for ages in the LGL. She's so strong. Her ability to deny a load of those dashes, a load of those engages is excellent, offering great peel with the keeper's verdict, and she can also start fights herself. So really a champion that kind of does a little bit of everything.
Absolutely. I think another champion that is potentially, maybe because they're a bit overtuned, doing a lot of everything is that Talia, showing up primarily in the mid lane, secondary to the jungle, is one of those ones that I'm hoping to see that in the week off, a lot of our players have learned to pick that one up, because I would say it's going to be quite important if we see it in this first matchup. It basically just disables any dash champions on the enemy team while being a very good mid-game spike going on into the late game. Great utility, great roaming with the jungler. We got to see over the weekend Niski use it to invade at level 3 with their jungler over in the LEC, which is just oppressive, very oppressive to play against. So it's something I'm hoping to see has been picked up.
In other words, Talia is broken. Well, anyway, no personal feelings towards the champion, I swear. But we're also seeing a lot of Aphelia's jinx again. Especially, we saw it in the LEC this weekend, and I'm wondering what you guys are thinking of the bot lane picks that we're going to have. Do we have a possibility of going back into the LJL hyper carry meta? And if yes, what do you think the teams are going to be picking?
Well,
Sorry.
To answer your first question, yeah, Melvin Izzle, I kind of don't want to pain you, allowing you to talk about this one, but this is something very, very dear to your heart, I believe.
I've been looking for so long, and it's been 6 games, and I just want to find my boy. Please, just bring Honey back.
No, you didn't actually.
Please, where is he? It's a Jinx meta, Jinx Aphelios, and you're telling me we're not seeing Honey played? Sengoku, I beg of you, please. If you have any information, phone Sengoku and tell them that Honey needs to be here right now on this patch. It's not fair.
But does he? Middlecop, what do you think? Honey has not been around, but they have been doing pretty goddamn well so far.
This is the thing, Laura. You almost go, yo, you're on a 10-game win streak. Yeah, 4 of those with Honey, but 6 of them with Vital, and this guy has looked insanely good. I didn't think that coming in to this split that we would actually have another AD carry in the league that would be able to match or potentially even exceed what Honey's been doing. But Vital has definitely been that player. I think that he offers a bit more aggression, I think, in terms of the early stages for Sengoku, which is definitely something that Honey has lacked in the past. But come on, guys. Jinx, Aphelios, these are the champions that Honey really made his name on. These are the champions that basically dominated the LJL last summer and in spring as well. And I'm so surprised that we're not seeing this player coming back to play the hyper carries.
I mean, maybe now we're going to have the opportunity, right? Like maybe the meta is going to favor him, and I don't know exactly how it works for the team to, like to pick their starter in this sense. I don't know if they compete against each other and they actually both get to scrim with the team, and it's on a weekly basis. It's I'm not sure if it's that transparent because I actually have not seen it been talked about anywhere, but. Well, maybe that's the case, and maybe with the hyper carry, they're going to be like, all right, Honey, come again.
It's really big here. I think that's the main reason, right? Look, Honey never really been a big Senna proficionado, but on the other side, Vital, definitely something that they brought to this team, and it has unlocked a new way of drafting that I think in this current meta and being able to use the Senna to send those resources straight over to the Jet in the mid lane has been essential for this team. And I'm hoping that in the time off, they've maybe gone back and forth, and I think it's going to be actually almost side dependent. If they want Honey to come back and you're on red side, you're going to be banning Senna most of the time anyway, so it very much removes that as no, my boy.
Good graphic.
Take it away.
Good, yes. Take it away. He can't handle it.
Oh Lord! Oh, if you couldn't tell, our producer is also quite good at Photoshop and loves throwing up the odd meme on the screen. So thank you very much, Chris, for that one. Yeah, you did.
He's Control X in my heart and pasting it into the bin.
What are you drinking there?
I mean, I did bring my milk carton just to make sure that I could send it off to the rest of the teams. We've got to send off that missing poster one way or another, so...
Hold on, Callum, are you just drinking a carton of milk?
Who does
I'm drowning my sorrows, Middle!
Oh, milk and honey is pretty great anyway, so... I guess that works.
Good for the throat.
All right, guys. So let's take a look again at DFM versus Sengoku. Who were these teams the first time that they faced off against each other, and now? Because it has been quite some time. So I'm wondering if there are any changes that we can talk about, discuss. If one of the teams now, if maybe DFM is going to have a leg up because of the way that they are playing, and Middlecop, maybe you have a thing or two to sway.
Yeah, so I think that this, obviously a screenshot from the first game of the day, first game of the split, where DetonatioN FocusMe didn't get a single kill versus Sengoku. And I think this is a really interesting game that can actually highlight a couple of the differences between these teams, because you look at the composition that DFM have got here. It's a lot of scaling, stuff like the Kale, the Victor, the Senna. These are champions that thrive a little bit in the later stages. And while Sengoku definitely have those late game insurance policies in terms of the Jinx, their composition is a bit more mid game focused, a bit more concerned with getting advantages around the sort of 20-25 minute mark. And actually both these teams have kind of swapped styles. You now see DFM going for a bit more aggression. They're picking stuff like Kalista, Renata in that bot lane to try and get themselves early advantages, whereas Sengoku are a bit more comfortable going a little bit later into the game. We see powers on a load of these late game tanks. We see a lot of these scaling AD carry picks for Vital in the bot lane. So a real shift in styles between these two teams, and I'm really excited to see how they clash.
And I think for me, a lot of it is this could actually have been a reality check game for DFM, right? You're coming in off of the MSI hangover, and it feels very reminiscent of last summer's split. It wasn't Sengoku that time around. It was Rascal Jester that got the air quote free hangover game away from DFM. But now, I don't think Aba is looking at this going, yeah, Sengoku, they only stole that win and they didn't really deserve it on the scale of things. This team looks good, right? They look good in a very different way to DFM, who themselves have been using that bot lane pressure more recently to go towards mid. Whereas Sengoku, they kind of just wait until that mid game. And once they get to those team fights, that's when we see this squad come alive. And I think that coming into today's draft, I'm very interested to see what happens in some of these early rotation bans. Because we know Ebby's had an amazing split so far, looking god tier. Jet also looking like the best mid in the league. I don't think anybody is going to really have a strong disagreement with that. So it really goes to show, how are you going to enable these key players for both squads? And also, what have you planned to disable the other one? Because you need to take Ebby out of the game for Sengoku to have a good shot. Last time around, they had that Sejuani up in the top lane that acted as a good mitigator, but now I'm very curious to see how they go about it.
All right, guys, we are ready for the picks and bans. So we're going to leave you momentarily, but we have an absolute banger of a match between Sengoku Gaming and DFM. So tune in. It is time for the show.
Thank you very much, Lara, as we are jumping into pick and ban. Sengoku here, undefeated so far this split on the blue side. DFM on the red. Already seeing some very interesting champions taken off the board, Melvin Izzle. I'm eyeing up that Poppy and Renata.
I think that makes complete sense, as we do see also the Pike taken away, something that we were just briefly touching on, how DFM used that to such success to pair Harp and Steal up and really just snowball through mid lane. It will be Vital starting today instead of Honey, so I will put my my milk to the side. I suppose that carton plan didn't really work out for me, as now we get the last ban from DFM. Will it be the Senna, this pivotal champion that has been popping up in the meta? Because with the hyper carries returning to bottom lane, it's not essential anymore.
Yeah, they do instead go towards this LeBlanc. Can apply a little bit of pressure in the mid lane. Important to note that we are still going to be on 12.12b, so no new changes coming through. As with that Pike being taken off the table, this would imply that Sengoku could want to go towards something like a Zeri Yuumi, which is so proficient in the bot lane, but actually they're going to go for a Talia, a champion who has really been rising in priority recently.
Here she is, and I think one of the biggest changes isn't actually because of the patch itself. I think it's just the evolution of the metagame. Zeri is another one of those ones that has really started to show her face again, and I'm expecting DFM to look towards that. The question is now, will it be paired with a Yuumi? Is the standard pairing another super high priority champion? As now, the next highest one that is floating around is going to be that Wukong that we saw briefly hovered. I'm expecting Sengoku to look towards it. It would make a lot of sense when paired with the Talia if you can't have the Poppy, as you're really just adding insult to injury here, Sengoku. You're not running Honey and then you insta-lock the Jinx. All right, then.
Yeah, and then NT going to be playing this Nautilus as well. Not the same as the Pike in terms of their ability to actually get onto the Zeri, but offers a lot of similar tools, and DFM actually going to be picking up the Wukong for themselves. Both these drafts feeling pretty stock standard at the moment for 12.12b. We'll have to see if there's any further adaptation as we get towards the second phase of picks and bans.
Well, there's going to have to be in the jungle pool, at least, because once Viego is taken away by DFM, which I can't see why they wouldn't at this point, then once the only other champion they have left open that they have got a match on would be the Zac for this split, which against the Zeri Yuumi isn't something you really want to be looking towards. Instead, we're going to have DFM focusing out Jet, as we do have DFM with the counter picks. So it really goes to question, with this current iteration of champions locked in, the Talia being a flex, this could just be both junglers and bot lanes locked in, leaving massive priority on those solo lanes we're putting such a heavy focus on.
I mean, that's something that isn't really considered right now, because we are seeing Talia so much as this mid lane threat who's able to get shove easily and then sort of roam to side lanes with her passive and with the Weaver's Wall as well. But traditionally, where we've actually seen Talia in pro play has actually been coming out of that jungle as an AP threat, using those sort of similar tools that make her such a strong roaming mid laner to be an effective carry coming out of the jungle. DFM choosing to remove Paz's Ornn from the table, so one of those big engage tools down for Sengoku.
Now, Gangplank is still open. So the question is, for Sengoku, do you ban the Vladimir here to remove that counterpick threat from Ebi? I think it's something that's definitely hanging over their heads right now because Gangplank's such a strong pick in the meta, just able to stonewall a lot of top lane matchups. Actually going to take away the Gnar, and knowing that Ebi has that counterpick Vladimir ready to go, if you do lock in the Gangplank, it just asks so many questions. Very standard looking to be from DFM.
Yeah, the Ahri has been one of Yaharong's most played champions, and whilst this is good for them, whilst this gives DFM a bit of that sort of early mid-game proactivity that we do like to see from them, I am worried because you're matching up this Ahri against Jet, who has probably had more practice against Ahri than anyone else in the world, because he's played so many champions this split, and none of them have been that Ahri. So I imagine that he's going to have a counterpick in his back pocket. No, we are going to see that Taliyah going into the mid lane with that Viego and Sejuani locked in, top laner and jungler secured.
I think that you're okay with that matchup as the Taliyah, being able to pretty much just negate any of the follow-up dashes from Mari as soon as Yaharong goes for that ult. As Ebi, come on now, you can play whatever you want here, but that is definitely not the hover I was expecting. I will wait to see what is locked in before I say a thing. It is the Mordekaiser locked in for Ebi up in that top lane. Could flex into jungle, but I doubt that highly. When you're against the Sejuani, that is just a ball of stats that you are happy to steal with the ultimate.
Yeah, and one of the things that Mordekaiser does do so well is play out a lot of these long extended fights because of the sort of passive, the damage over time, and just the natural tankiness that the Mordekaiser brings to a lot of his lanes. If this Sejuani gets pushed up at any point, then Ebi can just sort of chase her down at level 6, can lock her into the death realm, and really make Paz's day very, very difficult.
And something that pivotally, looking at both of these drafts, kind of to loop back around to what we were saying beforehand, both of these teams have placed a very heavy focus on spiking on one item, with their main scaling aspects being those ADCs, the Zeri and the Jinx, respectively. Looking across the board, everybody else, the Wukong, Mordekaiser, Sejuani, these are all champs that hit one item and they're in the game. So I think that we have got a very, very dramatic levels kind of 6 through 11 coming into this matchup.
Yeah, and I think that honestly plays into DFM's hands, right? Because they have been the team that has been a bit more proactive around the sort of early mid-game stages of the game. Sengoku have been a lot happier to let it scale. And whilst those tools definitely are there, I don't think that Sengoku are going to feel like if this game goes later and later, it's actually going to get away from them. They've still got that scaling potential.
Exactly, and when you have the Taliyah in the game as well, one of the biggest benefits from this champion is the zone control. Nobody can walk through those rocks without risking being knocked up, even being scooted, which I know isn't exactly a scientific term, but you have Sejuani, Nautilus, and even the Viego Ultimate. All of these tools have got some level of displacement that will immediately stun you on the Taliyah rocks. So I think that as the team fights go off, well, Sengoku have everything they could ask for and more to be able to execute well on these.
Yeah, but I'm sure DFM aren't going to be complaining about the composition that Kazu has created for them. We are on to the Rift for the first game of day 11 here in the LJL 2022 summer. Sengoku, first place, facing off against DFM, their next closest opposition. This is going to be a banger game, Melvin Issel.
At the exact midpoint of the split for these teams, will the trajectory change for either? Will we see a particularly different form? These are all the questions that we've got floating around. But I think as we look at this draft and look at how this early game is going to play out, one thing I will say is while we expect DFM to be a team that likes to play more proactive early, well, Sengoku, they say, no, actually, we're going to kick it off. They're using that level 1 power that Taliyah offers to invade onto the blue buff, but actually Jet has left now. This is going to turn into a 3v3 that will go completely in Sengoku's favor.
Yeah, so it is going to be a buff steal, potentially more, but there's actually a fair bit of vision from DFM. Spotted out the initial invade from Sengoku, and now spotting out once, going to be clearing that ward as Yaharong, after gaining priority in the mid lane, is actually starting to roam over. Seal has hit level 2 and once potentially caught out. All deception going to be thrown out, no charm available, so just a bit of damage onto the Sengoku jungler.
Yeah, level 1 Ari isn't exactly that intimidating. I think even a level 2 Ari might have been something you could happily stroll past. So really interesting plan from Sengoku, and I love this because one of the biggest issues with the Wukong is their very early levels. They absolutely struggle to get anything done in these early skirmishes. They want to be at least level 3, preferably level 6, and working their way towards that first item. But instead, we just see complete proactivity from Sengoku. And when you have a Yumi for Harp, this is not a Pike. We're not going to see them matching up with Steel until Utapon is in a situation where they can happily sit on the tower, which is going to be very difficult against the Nautilus.
Yeah, and something that our good friend Nymera often says as, oh my word, that fan vote is is a little bit more skewed than maybe it should be, but something that Nymera likes to bring up is that Ahri is a champion that doesn't often actually lose lanes, but loses to the rest of the map. And so when you've got this bot lane that is going to be a bit more passive, that is going to be stuck under their tower, that frees up Enti to sort of do what they're doing now, dip into the river, and cause potential issues for DFM.
And when you have two mid lane champions, both the Talia and the Ahri, that want to roam to side lanes, it's going to be whichever side lane is better set up for you. And right now we have a complete dichotomy on the map, with top lane Ebby getting absolute domination onto this matchup, enabling Steel to go fishing for camps, but finding nothing. And then on the other side, well, we just saw at level 1.
Oh, that hook, the interrupt Harp! He's not going to be able to get back to his AD carry. Just a short trade from Sengoku there, but very well played.
Yeah, the thing is, it was only a level 2 for Vital, so not able to really commit too heavily into a double level 3 bot lane. I think that's a good trade overall, but it won't do much for the rest of the lane. If anything, what it's done is enabled Yaharong to walk forward, knowing that the jungle pressure is going to be on their side of the map now. Is going to secure a crab. And again, pretty passive stuff. 1 to 6, as expected. I'm hoping once these ultimates come online, though, we're going to see Weaver's Walls, we're going to see the depth charges, everything going off. And I would say something we won't be seeing is Ebby in the top lane, because he's going to be dragging Paz to that death realm and stealing them stats.
Yeah, already got a pretty reasonable CS advantage for himself in that top side. And whilst there was a little bit of a lead for Vital, I imagine that's going to be equalized as this wave crashes under the tower. So yeah, definitely a split map state. And to talk a little bit about that lack of, I guess, shenanigans in the early stages, I actually think that's come down to a lot of the vision that's been being placed, because we've seen Sengoku and DFM placing wards in the enemy jungler's jungle, trying to spot them out, and means that this Viego and the Wukong champions that can actually get a little bit of stuff done in these early stages haven't been able to quite find that impact just yet.
And we do see that neither jungler has actually taken a base yet, so it's just been that matter of try power farm, get to the level 6, knowing that because we haven't been able to get these early shenanigans off, that we do need to just rush towards those spikes, as once his first item picking up that anti-heal. Now, this is something that hasn't really necessarily changed with the current patch, but we did see the Chem Punk Chainsword get buffed not too long ago. It's got insane stat value. It's 138% gold efficient. Very cheap, a lot of good value. And looking at it, once is actually going to pick that one up first by the sounds of it, which is a very scary prospect because it lets you spike far quicker than Steel will on this Wukong.
Yeah, it just provides loads of stats, which is really, really good. And the Grievous Wounds aspect of it almost feels secondary. It's kind of like how Old Morellonomicon was, where it was this item that was just really, really stat efficient. And hey, you also get a little bit of Grievous Wounds on top, as Yaharong being a little bit funky with this wave, trying to make sure that he can crash his own wave, and that frees up Steel and Harp to move towards this Drake.
We'll have the spellbook change from Jet going over to the TP, but won't be able to contest anything here. Giving up First Dragon isn't too critical in the current meta, but the question is, what do you do about the Rift Herald in that case? Because when you have the Nautilus versus the Yuumi, you really are expected to be the team for Sengoku that will be looking towards that objective first, as Steel only just tagging over to level 5 from that dragon kill. Go path back into his jungle, Enti, just go fish, get this free crab for his jungler, just try speed farm again. I'm hoping to see a lane swap coming out from Sengoku, because you're not going to break through this bot lane naturally unless you have all 4 people down here. The point of these Yuumi is they just live.
Well, you talk about all 4 people coming down here. Doesn't look like Utapon and Harp are going to be the target, just this blue buff, but it's good from Sengoku trying to steal resources away from this Wukong. And getting a blue buff Oh, that actually didn't go onto Jet. That's a little bit sad. But hey ho. It's a camp stolen for once. It's a level 6 now on the Viego. Very, very important if he wants to start skirmishing.
And one of the things that I'm now looking at is, on the side of Sengoku, in these skirmishes, who survives Ebi? Who gets into the Death Realm and can actually live? Because it's all about, for when you have this Ghost Mordekaiser, not the Flash, very, very good if you're ulting somebody in the middle of a lane, because there's no walls for them to jump over and you will catch them. However, if you're in the jungle, then the question becomes, does the enemy have Flash, or for once's case, do they have Ultimate? Because if they go over a wall, you become a bit useless for Ebi.
As we're seeing Vital and NT shove out this bot wave, Nautilus taking the reset, I imagine is going to be making a beeline towards the top side of the map as Ebi securing the shove up against once, building that CS lead even further up against Sejuani, and also starting to rotate down. So both teams recognizing that top half of the Rift is going to be very, very important for the next minute or so.
With Herald spawning, I'm curious to see if Harp starts making their way over. We do have Utapon basing now. It's going to be very important to see where this bot lane walks towards. They are just going straight back to lane. NT is mid. I'm waiting to see if they're just looking to fish for a play onto Yaharong first. This is only a level 5 Nautilus, so you can't guarantee the depth charge knockup. And it does mean that you are in a bit of a question mark state, with Ebi having such insane priority on the top lane, and being, you know, Mordekaiser, so you can't really gank them as a support. It leaves you in an awkward spot here. It will just be a startup on the Herald, level 6 picked up for Ebi off of that stolen mid XP. I feel like a skirmish is waiting.
Yeah. NT just sort of like starting out by himself, like, fair play, bro. Maybe scouting out this DFM ward, trying to pull it away from that top side, trying to pull it away from Ebi, who is such an enormous threat at this stage of the game. But yeah, boss music is starting to play. Steel and Ebi are on the way. Yaharong has also got Harp on their back as the Rift Herald running away from once, but they're still going to be able to smite it down. Melvin Izzle felt so close to a fight precipitating there, but not going to happen. And now Utapon on the bot lane is going to be able to shove out this wave and get a load of turret plates for themselves. That
was very, very tense. I fear that in many other worlds, that could have been a complete sweep for DFM, but Sengoku managing to scoot away. It will just be bot lane plates and a potential play onto the bottom side of the map. It will not be a steal onto the objective, but you do have time to dive here. Won't fish for it, though.
NT is starting to go over. You say they won't fish, but they might be going all in. The Chomper's going to be laid down. The dash is interrupted from Steel, but he's still going to be able to find the Cyclone dashing away. Locked up as NT isn't quite able to find the hook onto Utapon. Again, so close, but not quite close enough.
It's going to be a lot of summoners stolen away from the Sengoku bot lane. Like NT1 looking to try and get in range for the depth charge to get any respite back. Jet is just scrapping around with their enemy mid laner, trying to contest this vision control. One of the biggest changes that happened to Talia is the wall is much smaller, so you need to be already in the lane to get the play down. Ooh. What was that hug?
What the? Yeah?
Okay.
That was a pretty strange animation.
Oh,
not happy with that one. As heavy as lot Paz in the Death Realm, but he hasn't taken tower aggro yet. The Ignite is going to go down onto the Sejuani. First blood, easy as you like for the king of top lane.
Professional bonk wizard up in the top lane right here. Very cleanly done. Is going to secure themselves free priority in the lane. Yeah, take a free play, Ebi. There's no reason not to. It. You know that they were all counteracting the bottom side for DFM, so I feel like now it's just going to be continued scrapping. Dragon is spawning in 30 seconds. 2 dragons. That starts to become a bit concerning as we get to see that solo bolo.
Yeah, this one was just a little bit too easy. I guess Paz not respecting the damage that the Mordekaiser can do in these 1v1s. And this is why being able to pull out these slightly more obscure picks, these slightly weirder champions can benefit Ebi so much. Because, yeah, honestly, not very complicated in terms of a dive.
Well, the most impressive part to me is the fact that Ebi at no point engaged his passive. Because if you had done that, all you would have had to do is just walk up as Paz, take a slight bit of damage from that Mordekaiser just shredding metal, and then you would have ended up killing Ebi under tower, because he doesn't have flash. He would have just ended up getting the aggro, getting caught up by the Sej CC. But at the end of the day, so cleanly done, just walking in and out, weaving in those obliterates from Ebi. Nice stuff, as now we do get to see DFM looking to try and get something done on the bottom lane. You do have the Wukong Yumi combo. It is a lot of CC, especially on a bot lane with no summoners, but once is down here. And information advantage DFM.
And crucially, though, Once is the only member of these two bot lane trios that has the completed item, but it may not matter as Jett is not even in this fight as Vital is exploded. Yaharong is now starting to roam down as NT has been caught out as well. 2 swift kills for DFM.
Lovely stuff from DFM, using that early priority from the mid lane to get on down, as Jett is just existing. They are going to get jumped on by 2 people, but it's an Ahri without ultimate, so I don't think there's going to be much to say. They just, weren't first on the play, and that is what we expect from DFM. Somehow managing to bring that pressure to bot early on.
And this was the sort of like the worry that we maybe had about this matchup is we know that...
Oh, come on.
Steal?
No blue buffs allowed.
No shot. No shot, Vital.
3 for 3. 3 for 3. Oh, that's brilliant.
I was gonna be hyping up DFM there, but they may have just lost the game. They may be losing their jungler now as oh no, NT can't quite find the dredge line. Face plants into a wall and Steel is able to escape.
Just look at the amount of damage coming out from that chainsword. I know we didn't get to see much of it in the bottom lane because the fight was basically over before it began. Utapon will secure their own Gromp. But it will be now priority around this bot lane tower. You do finally have Jett walking down on this Talia, and never mind, they went straight back.
As Yaharong was also cheating towards the bottom half of the map, and really, I don't think we've seen the activity from both of these mid laners that we would have liked, and maybe that we would have expected. Again, we see the zoom out starting to see that now as Jett is making their way over. Once is here as well, and with Steel on the top half of the map, and Yaharong a little bit late. It could go badly for DFM, but once again, Sengoku cool off they play. They don't think they can make it work.
Yeah, not wanting to fish for anything. Jett was on the Scuttle Crab vision. Don't know if they realized that or if they were doing it as an intimidation factor. It's very hard to say, as they will just take this very basic trade. Talia wave clear is absolutely bonkers. Part of the reason why they are able to roam so hard. As we do see, it's been picked up for a little bit, but will be the Crown of the Shattered Queen picked up on this Talia, which is insane because this champion is no longer the one-shot burst mage that you may remember from past. Now, they are very sustained damage, basically kind of like an Anivia, I think is the best way to put it, where they control a zone and they just throw out their abilities periodically, and the only thing that stops them is running out of mana. So having this crown and walking towards their own blue buff right now means that in the upcoming fights around this Herald, around this Dragon, I expect that we will finally get to see Jett come online. It's going to be a bit more gold needed in their pocket before they'll do comparable damage to Yaharong, but still going to be pretty significant in these scraps.
Yeah, but we're hyping up Jett, but we need to look to the side lanes as well, as those are really not going well for Sengoku. We saw just there on our screen the gold lead that Ebi has been able to accrue for themselves, over 1,000, and with Utapon and Harp able to take down that bot lane tower, you can start to move this Zeri and Yumi a bit more around the map and start to apply some pressure with them. But it's actually Sengoku who have brought their bot lane up to this Rift Herald, and the contest isn't going to come through in time for DFM to steal away this objective.
I'm very curious to see how DFM respond to this. I would want to see just vision around the Dragon. It's what you'd expect from this team, trying to be able to secure something. We will get the Liandries picked up for Yaharong. When you're having such elongated fights, I think this item is extreme value on the Ahri. Could have potentially gone for the Pen Shoes, but I'm not Nightmare. I'm not going to tell you the optimal Ahri build here. I'm just saying I like it, right? Against a lot of health stackers on the enemy team, you have a Yumi, you expect a long fight, it makes sense.
Yeah, as we may be having one of those long fights fairly soon, as Cloud Drake is spawning in just over 30 seconds. Both these teams with 2 Drakes apiece, as actually DFM are hunting for Paz in the bottom side of the Rift, and they will find him. A 4th kill of the game goes unanswered for DFM.
That is positively dire. The only counterplay that you have right now for Sengoku is to look for something with this Rift Herald. As you can see, DFM, very smart, they know that, and come mid, ready to stop once chucking down this objective. Ebi looking to base, potentially TP down for this Dragon. I think that DFM are very much on the money with the play, as they will be able to get pretty much everything they could have dreamed of here.
Yeah, and now they can rotate fairly easily down towards that Dragon. This does mean that they give up their position in mid lane, and so Sengoku are going to be able to trade it for this tier 1 tower. That tier 1 mid lane tower, very important, does allow you to, well, kind of do what Once is doing now, move into the enemy jungle, get down some vision, steal away some camps, as Vital Not
It's not a
quite
blue
in
buff.
time to steal the Drake with the Super Mega Death Rocket. Yeah, if it was a blue buff, absolutely has that one.
Would have been completely doomed for DFM, but it will give them some acceleration towards this Dragon Soul. It will be a cloud, but when you have somebody like the Mordekaiser, denying that slow resistance when your first item is going to be the Rylai's picked up with that Mythic is going to be essential, because all Ebby wants to do is put somebody in the Death Realm, run at them very quickly, and then make sure they can't run away. And if you have Cloud Soul and Cloud Dragons, that actually makes Ebby's life really difficult. Once you pick them up for yourself, though, it's a raid boss. Like, the boss music meme will be brought up again in these team fights, because right now, nobody from Sengoku even looks at Ebby and survives.
And I mean, it's not just Ebby. Like, I'm thinking about a Wukong, Cyclone, that moving towards you even quicker, that's not going to feel good. Yaharong, a bit more movement speed from the million Spirit Rushes they're going to be able to cast, that doesn't feel good. And then Utapon on the Zeri. More movement speed on a Zeri. Who could ask for more? It absolutely is a tilter, and we're seeing some responses come through from Sengoku now. They were able to take down that top lane tower, but fundamentally, they're still the team in the disadvantage, down 2,000 gold, down a couple of Drakes. Yes, they've got scaling on their side, but DFM, we know how explosive they can be around about this point in the game.
Now it really does start to pose those questions. I feel like we find ourselves in a bit of a lull state, but currently, not to, make a statement or anything, but we are looking in a game where DFM has 4 kills and Sengoku have 0.
Correct.
Now, watching the previous time around,
oh no, Steel is going to be caught out by once, but NT once again face planting into the wall, and the turnaround with a final chapter, the exhaust onto once as well, means that they have to ult defensively. Utapon, though, not going to do any of that as they jump over the pit and are now getting focused down, but the rest of the team is there to back them up. Meanwhile, Ebby 1v1ing Jet on the other side of the map, forcing the mid laner to flash away as Paz falls down for the 3rd time this game. DFM claim another kill, with Harp going over the wall. Our spring champions looking a little bit cleaner as the skate comes through, and Vital going to be caught out under their tower. The recall not quite going to come through in time as there goes the AD carry. Looks like Once was able to escape from that one, but no one else on Sengoku did.
Milcor, I'm going to ask you a question. Do you remember the first game of the split between these teams? And do you remember that scoreline?
Don't remember the scoreline, but I remember that DFM didn't get a single kill, but right now it is Sengoku with a 0 in the kill column.
As we see how this fight kicked off, it was going to be a bit of a scrap around the jungle, as this is just everybody from Sengoku immediately having to retreat. Ebby putting Jet into the Death Realm, and that crown will not keep you alive for long, having to try and escape over that wall once the Death Realm ends, only way that they're going to survive. But even here, watch what happens to Vital. Ebby manages to grab them over the wall. Absolutely disgusting. It means that they get chunked out and enables this dive that happens when Yaharong loops around the side. Part of the power of a Yumi, it just means that you are, even with increased tower damage, under no threat whatsoever doing this.
I like the Vital sort of like hang out under the tower going, right, this will save me, right, this will save me, right, and then everyone from DFM
Please
shows
say
up,
psych.
and they fall out. Yeah, say psych, really. And the weird thing for me is that didn't really feel like a fight that Sengoku needed to take. There weren't any big objectives on the map. There weren't really any consequences of that play for DFM in terms of objectives that they took. So Sengoku, when they've got this composition that needs a little bit more time to get online, maybe getting baited into a fight that they didn't really need to. And now DFM, they've taken that lead that they had generated for themselves in the early game, and they have built on it significantly. 5,000 gold now in the advantages. We're in this sort of like mid-game point where the objectives that you can actually secure if you win a fight are really, really impactful, and DFM more empowered to do that than the blue side team.
With this Baron setup coming down, you have to think about how easy it is to take Baron, and when you have a Mordekaiser with that percentage max HP shred, is going to be quite a quick objective. You have a Yumi as well if Harp wants to make their way over, but this is a pretty good bait from Utapon, just standing around the mid lane, but Sengoku fished it out.
A little bit too far forward, does get hit with a charm, but is able to hook themselves away. Another dash forward from Yaharong, chunks the Sengoku support to around about 20% HP. But the look-in from Sengoku, enough to force DFM off that Baron for now.
Oh, but I love this, though. DFM force the Baron, gets the face checks out from Sengoku, and use that pressure to just walk on down to the Dragon. I don't think there was actually a world where they wanted that Baron. They could have stuck on it if there was no attempt to contest from Sengoku. So it's a win-win. Now, you have advantage health bars because there's a Yumi on the team, and the Dragon is spawning. ND has just run out of base and does not have any time to put down vision, so there should be a free objective for DFM.
Yeah, but it's actually Sengoku who, credit to them, contested that mid lane priority very, very strongly and are moving into the river. But yeah, the wallets are walking through the water and starting to push Sengoku away. But once again, they're backing off, and Sengoku now with a position around the top half of this bot side river. Looking for a play onto DFM. DFM Ebby does have that ultimate, can steal away the jungler, but is actually going to go forward onto Jet. Steal, securing the Drake. It's sole point for DFM, and Jet is already dead. Here comes the final chapter. Here comes the rest of the fight. The charm connecting onto Vital, who Vitals are looking pretty dire right now. Another kill for Ebby, another kill for DFM, and once again, it's once the only man left alive.
An absolute statement game from DFM, reasserting their dominance over the region as they will look towards this Baron with one dragon to go before Sol. They are going for the clean sweep, showing Sengoku exactly how it's done, which leaves just absurd questions between these teams now.
Yeah, if we're seeing a flawless game of the first game of the split for Sengoku, and now a flawless game potentially for DFM in this game, that matchup in the third round robin becomes hella spicy, Melvin. Let's see how this fight played out.
Okay, so they go straight in as Ebby, and they jump onto Jet because he knows there's no flash on this person. I blew it last time, and the only thing is they die slightly late, so they don't get the stat steal, but it doesn't matter because Yaharong with that flash charm just seals the deal, getting the reset onto the Spirit Rush, able to chase forward now. NT, no chance of escape, making sure they get the assist on the other side. Very cleanly done as NT's in danger already. I mean, I don't think that there's much you could do as Sengoku here. You really do need to hope for some kind of uncharacteristic mistake because, yeah, as you can see here, none of your carries are allowed to do anything right now.
And that's really the power of this Mordekaiser coming to bear. Obviously, he was a bit more focused on that 1v1 with Jet, but when they popped out of that Death Realm, they were causing a hell of a lot of chaos. And DFM, they've just felt more enabled this game to play proactive, to pull the trigger whenever they've had the opportunity. And now that goal lead, even more significant, and these towers are starting to fall as this Baron buff still has a couple minutes left.
Going to look to siege toward this bottom lane. You do have good comeback tools for Sengoku. There is a Jinx and there is a Viego, so hope is not lost yet. But the thing is, getting onto these carries is so difficult. We talked about how slippery Utapon is going to be with this Yuumi on them. And then, where else are you looking, right? You're looking for the Mordekaiser who could just kidnap you into the Death Realm, and then you're not really picking them, they're picking you.
Yeah.
And then you have an Ari Wukong. There's just no easy answer for Sengoku here.
And I love how DFM are playing this. They've had the aggression, but now it's a little bit of a patient, recognizing that they've got time to play with their waves, that Utapon can apply some pressure in this mid lane, that Sengoku are being pulled a little bit in order to answer. And with Paz the only one checking for this mid lane, Ebby actually forced to go golden there, potentially engage onto the DFM top laner as they are just trying to blow him up before he could even respond. The shield coming through just in time to keep him alive, though, as the turret shot isn't even going to take him down. How the hell is Ebby still alive? Finally, Sengoku get their first kill of the game, but it may just well be their last. Utapon going absolutely insane onto all the members of Sengoku, securing multiple kills and taking over this game. DFM stamp their authority down on Sengoku.
Skirby sealing the deal right here. Should be a freebie, walking it down to end the game. It will not be a clean sweep, but hot damn was it an explosive one. I don't think one kill is going to make the difference in our minds to say that DFM showed up like a monster this match.
Sengoku, with thoughts of usurpation in their mind, match up against the Emperor of the LJL once again and are found wanting. A dominating victory from DFM.
Finishing out halfway through the split for both teams at 10-1, with their only loss being to each other. Absolutely absurd as a prospect. Not something that I ever thought we'd get to see such a competitive split, and it is brilliant to see that both teams did it in similar fashion, right? It wasn't just, oh, well, one team had a close match and the other team had a stomp. Both teams effectively stomped the other now.
And that's absolutely ridiculous, and it's what can happen when you've got two teams who are so good. If you give them an inch, they will take a mile, and they can take a mile against absolutely anyone. Absolutely insane performance coming out from DFM in that game. And we are going to be breaking it down in a little bit more detail after this short break. So don't go anywhere. We'll see you in a few minutes.
Welcome back to the LJL unofficial English broadcast. That was a poggers of a match. How did you guys feel about it? Because I know that obviously like Sengoku Gaming, the first time that they beat DFM, well, the only time I suppose, they did kind of the exact same thing. It was a stomp from one side, and now we saw a stomp from the other side.
Mm.
What does that tell us? Maybe we can begin with Melvin.
Please give me this juggernaut match already. I know we've got one more game of this in the regular season. I believe it's day 16 right now.
Correct.
This is day 11, right? So not much time for Sengoku to think about what they're going to do differently that time around. But hot damn, with the performance level of both of these teams at their peak, we have got an absurd playoffs coming up.
Very true. Middlecott, any feelings?
Yeah, well, I mean, my main feeling after this game is, wow, DFM are a really, really good League of Legends team, but it also actually builds me a lot of confidence, kind of the way that Melvin Isle is saying, because of how cleanly DFM were able to execute on this game when they actually had a lead. I kind of would have been disappointed if this match, if it had gone another sort of 5-10 minutes, because I think with the advantages that DFM had, this was probably as quickly as they could have closed it out, which means that we've got two teams at the top of the standings that are incredibly clinical when they've got these leads.
I gotta be honest, I love this bastion of head of these two absolute titans in the LJL. But right now, I think it's fair to bring up that World is not too far around the corner. LJL is going to send one representative. And we have these two teams that are, well, absolutely stomping the rest of the league, but seem to be at odds when it comes to facing each other. If you could pick one to represent the LJL World. Yes, this question. You knew I'd ask for it.
Okay.
Middlecott, who is your representative of the LJL?
Oh, screw you, Lara. This is like making me pick between my children. No, you've made me pick between two absolutely wonderful teams.
I have to ask that.
That's fair. That's fair. I don't want to be a hater, but DFM have had a lot of shots at international events, and to be fair to them, they've gone pretty well. But I think we need a new world representatives. I think version 3 of the LJL almost, and that should be Sengoku for me.
Okay, that was not the angle I thought you were going with when you started that sentence, but it is one that I will attest to. I think that if a non-DFM team was ever going to put up a show at an international event,
it's
got to be this Sengoku roster, right? The fact that both of these teams actually have the other to spar with is so significant for both of them. And I think it's why we've seen just the level of both of them just go through the roof. I would not be surprised if neither team drops another game until their next matchup.
Yes.
And then we finish with both of these teams having 1 and 2 losses respectively at the end of the splits. So yeah, I will copium my way to Sengoku, but I'm also going to say that I will actively refuse to watch the Worlds games if Sengoku is there, because of course, as soon as I come back, they lose their first game. That's just the expected result now, isn't it?
It's the curse of a superfan. It's the curse of a superfan.
That's true. That's very true. But also, I would say it would be super interesting to have them represent the LGL and see something new and see what they can do, right, in the international stage. But let's take a look at this game again. Well, we had Zeragumi, which somehow was left open. We had a Mordekaiser top, which could have felt a little bit. Oh, look at that! Loving the photoshops today. They're so great. Look at that. He's opening the book, or is he?
Yeah, you just there. Harp just sat on top of the book.
It's all good. You did great.
It's quite a strange image, actually. Just opening a book.
You say that after the pool party one earlier.
Well, right, the pool party at least at least you've got like a couple of like muscly dudes, and like I don't know if Jet is like hitting the gym or something, like that's realistic. But I don't think that ever you're gonna open a book and Harp's head is just gonna like pop out of it. I don't think that happens.
Commission a pop-up.
Oh, you've never opened every book that exists in the world, so you can't know for sure.
True. Statistically, there could be one. Anyway, back to the actual game. Of the fact that this Zerayumi duo was not only left open, but just immediately grabbed up by DFM. I think it was so important to see that come out, because it is something that across the world we have seen priority just skyrocket. Out of the top 4 champions in the LEC for this recent weekend, we did see all of them get priority. It was that Poppy immediately banned away. The Zerayumi picked up. The Talia first picked from Sengoku.
Right.
And That's great, right? We're seeing that the region actually be in tune with global meta, something that over a year and a half, I don't think we've ever been like, damn, let's get off the narcopium and finally lock in an Ornn once in a while. Finally, we're actually in tune with global meta.
All right, and in tune of global meta, what do you guys think that Mordekaiser brought into this draft specifically?
Yeah, Melvin was talking about global meta, and then Evie just slams down the Mord. I think it was a really strong matchup into the Sejuani, as we mentioned on the cast, but it also caused a lot of problems for Sengoku in team fights. Jet couldn't play the game. They couldn't be this zoning threat on the Talia because Evie would just pop Ghost, run at them, press Death Realm, and beat them to death with his huge mace. And at that point, the team fight started to look really, really rough for Sengoku because they didn't have as many options to actually defend against the aggression that DFM needed to put out.
I completely agree. And I think while it's a soft analytical point, not something that you can really put numbers behind, Mordekaiser just makes it a completely unfair fight of having that 4v4. And Zerayumi is a duo that can 2v4, right? 2v5 is something they can physically do. But when you have these very open fields where they could just dash around, enabled by that Yahorong Ari as well, and then just with the supplemental Wukong buying space, suddenly you allow the star power of DFM to shine to such a high degree. Because obviously Abby's going to have fun in the death realm with everybody on the enemy team. But then you look at what's happening outside it, and suddenly these fights just become so open. The zone control that Sengoku has built up collapses, and it just allows DFM to run them through.
Sounds good. And now, Melvin, I have kind of a hot take question for you.
Okay.
Maybe you know what I'm going to ask, but how do you think that Honey would have done on the Jinx?
Well, that's cruel, first of all. But, okay. So, I think they would have had a great time on the Jinx, personally. And I think that this is now a genuine question that comes up in the Sengoku mind, because we haven't really had any indication of whether this is just a full swap saying that Vital, that's our man, that they stay there now forever, or if this is going to be a revolving door. Because I was hoping it would be the latter, A, because I'm a Honey stan, like, you know, but also because I think that in the current meta, when you have a Felios Jinx and to a lesser extent Zeri coming back in, if you are not fielding Honey and you have the option to be fielding Honey, it's a problem. I get that Senna is also very significant, and that's something that Vital has, but I'm hoping that we can see, especially when it gets to those best of series, that Vital and Honey can swap between and make a very difficult drafting situation, because when you have two different styles of ADC, it's something that makes actually playing against them and drafting game to game nigh impossible.
Right. And this is not basketball, right? Like it's not like you can just swap them in the field, but it could have been interesting maybe if they could. All right. Everyone, we're going to call a short break before we go into our next match, which is going to be Crest Gaming Act and Burning Core. So stay tuned.